come just so we can do this show for you. Our listeners cried out and wanted to fill their Sunday morning with us at the usual time, 10 to 11. And on this beautiful day, it's Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Rudolph.
Rose Cirillo.
Oh, yes. My mother passed away 20 years ago. Good woman. You'll probably, all of us right out there will probably describe our mothers in the same way.
First generation Italian American.
Well, yeah, that I don't know if most people will describe it as that, but
I have a reason for that.
Okay. Giving, caring, loving.
This also applies to my mother, so I don't have to say it. I'm just right here. I guess.
Exactly. Always had time for their children, whether they worked or were home, their job was being in the home all day. My mother was so creative with art, with everything. She was funny. I actually am going to tell you a story about me and my mom. So I married really young and had children really young, but I still saw my mother quite often. And we had a mutual friend, someone I worked with. I started out as a nurse's aide, and my supervisor, Ivan, was a registered nurse and became friendly with my family. So I worked night shifts. So sometimes we'd go out to, God, I think it was IHOP in the morning. So me, my mom, Ivan, and sometimes other people. So unfortunately, Ivan passes away. And my mother and I are going to go to the funeral. So it wasn't a church, where you walk in and it's a funeral, Catholic funeral mass. It was in, I don't know what they call them, really, like a little monastery at the graveyard. Like it was on
like the chapel at the mausoleum or at the cemetery.
Yeah.
I mean, they have it. In New York, people will know it from St. John's has a big mausoleum that has a little chapel.
Yeah. So we walk in and I'm amazed. I said to my mom, oh my goodness, look at all these people. And we're kind of ushered to a seat. And it's like, I'm just looking around all these people.
How old?
And Ivan, how old?
How were you?
Oh, in my 20s, I'm sure. Young 20s.
You weren't, of course, I was going to say, were you baby Dr. Maria?
No, I wasn't even a doctor yet. Okay. I was a nurse's aide.
Okay.
And may have been in college. I may have been in college to become a first step registered nurse. But so we're sitting there and, praying, and we're sad. Ivan was very generous. And all of a sudden, the priest says a different name, right? We're in the wrong place.
No.
And my mother and I could not stop laughing, but we want to be very respectful to the people around us. So you're trying to keep it in. So all you see is like this.
Were you starting to laugh?
We were laughing hysterically, but
you were trying to make believe you were crying?
We weren't trying to make believe anything. We were trying to subdue the crying.
This is a movie. This is a movie.
Start comforting us, like people are putting their hands behind us, like we're hysterically mourning, and we're at the wrong funeral. So we told that story.
The Will Ferrell movie.
Particular chapel, they had like arms, so you had multiple different funerals. We didn't know that.
Funeral crashes.
We had only been to funeral masses in a Catholic church, so we just walked in and went to the first one, and we were at the wrong one. But we told that story for years to come, me and my mom.
Well, Dr. Maria, you and I are going to have to share a lot of funeral stories because at various times in my life, the original experience was altar boy doing a funeral mass to get out of class. Frightened out of his mind when the dead body comes in and saying to himself, did he make the right decision? Until the next one came along, and it was go to the funeral mass and get scared out of your mind or sit in class. What do you think I did? Which one do you think I did?
To get out of class.
She knows me. And then I became an expert at funeral mass. And then tragically, it could be that I've been at the most funeral masses, maybe for any public official, except for a priest, I would think. Yeah. But in any event, let's
just talk about Mother's Day real quick.
So a brief little thing about my mommy, Elena Davanzo. Elena, Helen, we always called her I always called her Mother and Mommy. But of course, her friends always called her Helen. But her official name is Elena Davanzo, first generation Italian American, who came from a family that was 30 miles away from your predecessors in Italy
family.
and my predecessors in Italy, in two towns that kind of operate together. Gatto Menardo
Grata Menarda.
and Gesualdo.
Yes.
I have to say, in deference to the doctor, Gatto Menardo is bigger. I think you're 40,000.
Yeah, it's still a small town, but yeah.
And we're 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it could be that if the marriages get rearranged, they all will move. Well, in any event, they're very close and they're very wonderful. They're in Avellino in the mountains outside of Naples. Most wonderful people you'll ever meet. Warmest, kindest, most generous, and the most loyal. Well,
And your
happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's
to
Day.
every mother out there.
Yes.
To you, Dr. Maria.
Thank you.
As a mother at a very young age and a grandmother.
Yes.
And for some ridiculous reasons, for no one believes it, hopefully pretty soon it'll be a great grandchild.
Pressuring. I do have a granddaughter married, and I keep pressuring her to produce the first great grandchild. I just want a baby in the family.
So I have gotten used to.
Rudolph, I have to tell you about Anna Jarvis. Have you ever heard that name before? Anna Jarvis was from Philadelphia, and I, very proud of my state. As if, for those Uncovering the Truth listeners, you hear us talk about New Hampshire or me talk about New Hampshire, but I'm also very proud of my country.
May I say one thing?
Yes.
Please stay tuned. We're having this little happy talk because it's Mother's Day. This is not an indication that we're not going to cover hard and tough.
Yes, of
the
course.
kinds of things that you will not hear on WABC.
That is right. Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia, from America. Her mom was a person that brought people together, organized groups for health. And she is the one that started Mother's Day. And I love that because it went worldwide within 5 years. That was in 1907. And then Woodrow Wilson made it a holiday thereafter. But thank you, Anna Jarvis, an American who the first one to celebrate Mother's Day.
Shall we bring in the flowers for Maria?
Yes, thank you.
Later on. Was Mike and the others who sent flowers for Dr. Maria. Clearly, Dr. Maria flowers. And they sent them here because they knew she was going to do the show from here. Originally, they had sent them, they were going to send them to the studio at ABC. And I'm going to take up that part of discussing it with you in a moment.
In a moment. But I want to,
Dr. Maria.
We got to talk about Georgia right now.
This is between me and the people who are denying me in the most gross way, the most unconstitutional, un-American way, my rights as an American citizen.
And we're going to get to that.
I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're going to get to that momentarily. Right now, we're going to talk about what's going on in Georgia. Many of you know.
I would like to give the introduction first because it really explains why we can cover Georgia here, but they could never hear about Georgia on that. If you listen to WABC all day and all night, you'll never hear that story.
Break. mypillow.com/ use code word Rudy. We love Mike Lindell, American made products, and we'll be right back. Rudolph Giuliani has a important statement, and then I'll come back in for our show. Thank you.
Maybe one of the more important I've ever made. We'll take a
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is Uncovering the Truth with Dr. Maria and me. This show has been on the air uninterrupted since early 2020, the year of the pandemic and the election. It has never missed a Sunday, I do not believe, on WABC. Several times, Maria filled in completely just for me. Sometimes I filled in completely just for her. Rarely, I'm going to say that's 4 or 5 times together. And we almost always did it live, unlike a lot of other people, I might add. We always did it live because I am a very, very big proponent of live television and radio, because I think the other has a little element of lack of authenticity, but sometimes it's needed. Our show has been taken off the air with a email from the CEO, John Castamatidis, not even from him, somebody, to Maria, firing her 2 or 3 days ago. And I was fired by a leak to the New York Times. That's the respect that they have for the both of us. And I guess you just have to accept that. Here is the reason for it. And Ted, I'm going to need the letter. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately. And Ted, I'm going to need the letter. Okay. And because you only need to read the first paragraph of the letter. There have been a flurry of lies by people speaking on behalf of WABC as to the reasons for it and as to the scope of the prohibition on Dr. Maria and I. Let me tell you, I was aware of no prohibition on anything I said, but one thing, and one that I agreed to 4 years ago, and that is to discuss Dominion, because I'm in a lawsuit with them. And my lawyer believed that it was necessary to not talk about that. I talk about all the other cases, but that one, my lawyer advised me I should agree with John when John asked me to please not discuss Dominion. He first presented us with a document would have included a lot of things. Dr. Maria and I crossed them out, left only in Dominion, and we signed it. And we've lived by it. I have. Not completely. She has completely. I've probably inadvertently used Dominion 3 or 4 times. Each time apologized and tried to remember that I was on the censorship station, not the usual thing that I'm used to, an American station that allows you to say anything, and then people can dispute it if it's untrue. Usually when they censor you because it is true, and they're afraid of the truth. So the very, very first line of that letter, which is, I'm going to have to use my eye. I got it. This letter, now this is from John Castamatidis, the CEO, to me. And this was given to me an hour before my Thursday show, ready to go on the air with my board ready and whatever. And it is palpably false, overbroad, and un-American. And I think indecent, based on First Amendment values. But okay, this letter serves to remind you that you are prohibited from engaging in conversations relating to the 2020 presidential election on your programs broadcast on WABC radio, the station. That lawyers love to do that. And otherwise in your capacity as an agent of the station. These specific topics include, but are not limited to, please underline, but are not limited to, extraordinarily important to the, I would say, maliciousness of this prohibition. The legitimacy of the election results, allegations of fraud effectuated by election workers, and your personal lawsuits relating to those allegations. So those are the 3 things specifically I can't talk about. But it's not limited to those. Now, I want you to conceive of this as a lawyer now, so that anything I say in that very broad topic up there, I am prohibited from any conversations concerning the 2020 election, and even as an agent of WABC. So, for example, shortly later, when Dr. Maria joins us, we're going to cover additional evidence of election fraud and election interference and irregularities in Georgia in the 2020 election, just recently uncovered over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I would not be able to report that to you on WABC if I had elected to stay there. Now, here's the other thing. I was never told anything but what I described to you. And the best proof of that is you've watched my show, many of you, for the last 4.5 years. There's 4.5 years of my talking about the 2020 election. And unless John and his henchmen don't listen to me, if they had a policy for me like that, I wouldn't be here now. I was never warned not to talk about the 2020 election. Even about Dominion, I think once they came to me and reminded me I mentioned Dominion. Most of the time I picked it up, and I apologize for it. I'm going to say it was less than 5 times. And it wasn't particularly prejudicial, and it was, but beyond that, I have discussed the 2020 election. I have in great depth discussed the case in Georgia with the $145 million unjust verdict. I have been questioned by broadcasters and newscasters from WABC about that without a single complaint to me. I don't know if they know about it, and I don't. I don't know if they're all very good people, and I consider them enormously honorable people, the people who work for WABC. And I can't believe that they would try to lead me into violating a policy that I didn't know about, or that theoretically we both knew about. And I've also discussed the 2020 election at times. More often, particularly recently, as you would imagine, the $145 million verdict. Now, I would not work for any station, for any amount of money that had that language that I could not discuss the 2020 elections. I've turned down offers in various lawsuits and other things to disavow what I said for very substantial amounts of money. When, as you know, I have financial difficulties. You say to yourself, why are they doing it to me now, after I've been continuously talking about this for the last 4.5 years, or in the case of Atlanta, since the verdict? The reasons are really quite despicable. And they have to do with their wanting to avoid a subpoena in a case in which Newsmax wants to know why Catsimatidis has a special deal with the owner of Dominion that nobody else has. And they want him to testify about it and produce the documents. Now, I don't know why he doesn't do it. He told me when he asked me to at least exclude Dominion that he thought because of their Greek affiliation and a particular priest whose name I can't recall, Father Alex is how I know him, he might not get sued. And I said, well, I talked to my lawyer about this whole thing here. And he said, it's up to you whether you want to agree or not. If you'd like to preserve your reputation, I don't think anybody would agree to this. That was really believed in the First Amendment. He's a First Amendment lawyer, and would tell him to shove it. And I said, no, John's a different kind of guy. That's what I thought. And I think it's reasonable. If you think he said, well, I'm going to tell you not to talk about Dominion. So I said, John, we'll sign this. Everything else out, just Dominion. That was it. First thing I heard about this other policy was 3 days ago. I made it clear that I couldn't possibly abide by it. And we went back and forth as to, various complaints and difficulties and other things that may turn out to be relevant at some point, but not to what we're saying. I kept trying to find out if I was going on or not, and then found out a few minutes before the Thursday, the Friday program I was being substituted for by my friend Curtis Sliwa. They didn't tell me that; they just did it. And then I was working out with them. Actually, if you get to see the text messages at some point, you'll see what I was doing was I was trying to get them to tell me directly, am I fired or not, so I could make plans for my life. And they wouldn't do it. John said he was very afraid of the things that were going on around him. I have that text, and of course I preserved it. And I was somewhat sympathetic with that, but also was not going to violate my conscience and what I might regard as the law. For example, if they're doing this in cahoots with any Biden lawyer, well, this is a direct violation then of my First Amendment rights. If they're doing it just on their own, it's another whole legal issue that I'm not going to get into, but it's a big one. But they wouldn't tell me. And all of a sudden, having leaked nothing to the press, because I'm an honorable man, I find out from the New York Times that I'm fired, that I'm suspended, and that I'm not going to be on Sunday either. And I couldn't get him to man up and say I was fired. I just said, am I fired? Am I fired? I then found out that they asked for their comrades back, which is the way that I broadcast, indirectly. And I said, well, I have to assume if you're taking my comrades back, I can't do it by smoke signals. So John, man up and tell me, fired or not. And then I saw the quotes in the Times, which were all lies, that all they wanted me to do was not to say that the election was stolen, not to, as you see from the letter, liars get stuck with letters all the time. Prohibition, clear as hell, cannot have any conversation with the 2020 election. And then I can't talk about any topics regarding the 2020 election. They give 3, but it's not limited to those 3. So this is a lawyer's trap. So if I say something that isn't listed there, but they say it's not limited to, I get fired. They then go on to tell me that the Uncovering the Truth show, that Dr. Maria has been an employee at, well, she doesn't want me to talk about it, so I will not talk about it. I will say nothing about Dr. Maria. She can speak for herself, except I can say, for me, I'm not even going to say that. I'll see if she wants me to say it. I have very, very strong views about the way they treated Dr. Maria. And I have very strong suspicions about the way women have been treated on that show. But those are my own, and Dr. Maria can speak for herself. And I apologize to Dr. Maria, who was upset that I was going to speak on her behalf. And I have tremendous respect for her. She's the reason our show was successful. I will say, as a matter of fact, that she's been on every show from day one with a few interruptions like I had. I don't think we took a vacation from this show. We did it on vacation, sometimes in separate places. And we figured out a way to do it. And sometimes we substituted for each other. And we have never been burdened by any censorship of any kind. So I can't tell you that now we're going to give you a show that's more uncensored and free than we did on WABC. Except if I had gone forward on WABC, I would have to have done that in order to maintain the money they paid me, which in this business by no means would be considered extravagant. But they did it to me at a time in which they knew that I could be in a position where I needed money. And I think they assumed that I'm like them and that I sell my soul for money. Because not to cover the 2020 elections for a major news network is without any doubt selling your soul to the devil. The devil is Joe Biden. I have also reason to believe that some of this letter, which I will not go into any detail about right now, paraphrases or plagiarizes the Biden lawyers, particularly in that case, in the case in Georgia. Oh my gosh, so suspiciously that this may have been done in cahoots with them, which would make it an altogether different thing and something we have to find out about. In any event, that part doesn't matter for this reason. Let's just end it this way. If you say to me, I will give you $1 million a day, and you can broadcast anything you want, but you can't mention the 2020 elections, I will tell you, if I'm in a good mood, no. And if I'm in a bad mood, I'll tell you what to do with it. But there's no amount of money that can buy my integrity. I don't know why they would think that. You see what I've gone through, and I refuse to capitulate. And I'm not doing that to be a martyr. Damn it, I'd rather not be a martyr. I'm doing it because I'm hoping that I can serve along with Steve Bannon and so many others, and the people, the January 6 people who have been hurt much more than me, that I can serve as a way of saving us. Do you realize if what John Catsimatidis did becomes normal, we're not America anymore? Today, they'll broadcast all day, but you can't hear about changes in the 2020 election. Somebody comes forward with evidence like we're going to show you, and you're not going to hear it on WABC. My sympathy to those there that are accepting that because they have to, because they have families to support. I'm a 79-year-old man going to be 80. Gosh, I am being financially squeezed really, really hard. And everybody makes their own judgment about this. So I do not judge them. I don't know their personal situation, and I have enormous respect for them. I don't want to go over each one of them individually. Some very close friends, none of them do I have animosity for. Not a single person at WABC, but two. Chad Lopez, who is, in my view, a terribly destructive force and the cause of a very, very unfortunate workplace, one that meets any definition of illegal in the way he treats, it seems to me, particularly women. And number two, my friend, John Catsimatidis, who is not telling the truth right now. His own letter tells you he's not. For that, I'm hurt. Particularly, as you realize, he was helping to sponsor my 30th birthday party until 4 days ago. 2 days later, his attitude changes. I'd really like to know what's going on in that 2-day period. So in any event, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, having gotten that out of the way, we have the new Uncovering the Truth, uncensored. But John, it was always uncensored. Ha! But it will continue to be, and be even more uncensored, if that's possible. Here's the reality. You want to know what the hell's going on in the world? Come to us. We'll tell you. They won't tell you about the 2020 election. And there are plenty of other restrictions on all the rest of them who are participating in the worst violation of the First Amendment in American history, which is making us look terribly close to Russia when they had Pravda, or the news agency in China. I will not accept that for my children, for your children. You better not. God bless America. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Welcome back to Uncovering the Truth. I'm Dr. Maria alongside Rudy Giuliani, and we are proudly sponsored by mypillow.com. Use code word Rudy. So, the 2020 election, there's been a lot of talk about it. One of the things that happened early on was poll workers coming forward saying, I'm a Republican watcher. I'm supposed to, by law, depending on what state they were in, observe every ballot. And I was put out to pasture. I was either put behind bars or I was told I couldn't come into a stadium or a venue where the ballots were being counted. Why would people do that? And that's, you could say it's un-American, whatever. It broke the state laws on the election. A lot of people called Rudolph Giuliani because who is he? He's the number one crime buster. He was President Trump's lawyer at the time. So he got flooded with calls. His long-term secretary gets flooded with calls. She can't handle it, ends up giving out my number. I have a whole other job. So I actually got a firsthand witness account of what was happening, the chaos, the amount of emails being sent to one of his companies from New Yorkers who witnessed fraud. But unfortunately, with such a small group, you had to concentrate on the people saying they witnessed fraud in the swing states. So apologies to the New Yorkers who had a lot to say, and I hope your voice will be heard someday. But Georgia certainly
WABC.
Georgia certainly came forward. Pennsylvania, I'd like to dispel I when I was CEO, I'd call it rumor busting. You can't let rumors go on and on because then it becomes someone's truth. And we have a huge issue with our Google searches or how we find things on the internet, which we'll get into in a moment. But recently, there's additional hearings down in Georgia. And what do you know? There are ballots missing. A lot of people want to see the actual ballots because there has been claims that they were photocopied. It wasn't the official paper. I don't know whether that's true or not. So people should be able to examine that paper,
They
right?
never have been.
We deserve it, but it's never been allowed. So I don't know if that's what sparked these new hearings. I don't know if you have better.
I know exactly what's
All
sparked
right.
this here.
Why don't you take it
The
from
election in Georgia,
I'm going to have a coffee.
the election in Georgia in 2020 was a complete fix. Everybody in Georgia who's on the in, meaning the crooked politicians in Georgia, of which there are many, know it. And they also know that 2018 was probably fixed. We can get into that separately. And there are any number of groups trying to bring it out. This particular group is one group that is interested in it. And what they found were that there are, I'll just give you the end result, and then all of the lies told by the crooks in Fulton County and in Georgia, going right up to the governor and secretary of state. Secretary of state probably participated in doctoring the videos that were given to me of the key allegations against the women who sued me and received a $145 million judgment for which I've never had a trial, never been allowed to testify, and have not been able to submit a grossly doctored tape that was presented under deceptive circumstances. So this group got a ruling. And the ruling is that they definitively found 3,125 ballots that were counted more than once. I mean, there should be no ballot counted more than once. And this is exactly what the tapes that I have remaining, luckily I kept some, show. They show, in fact, quadruple counting on about 5 or 6 occasions in a about 10-minute segment that went on for 3 hours, much of which has been deleted. So I would say this has got to be definitively true. So they found 3,125 multi-counted ballots. Now, that is not enough to overturn the election, but it is enough to make you think, man, what a bunch of crooks or negligent morons, which would mean, how about we now reopen all those other allegations that end up amounting to about 200,000? But it's worse than that. There were 17,852 votes for which no physical ballot was in evidence in one of the recounts. So they say, but don't produce, that, well, in other recounts, they were there. What happened? Somebody eat them? The election result was 11,000. That's enough to overturn the election. By the way, if they would like to, I could supply them about another 40,000 votes that overturned that election. Trump won that, according to me, by about 30 to 40,000. According to 2,000 Mules, which used a totally different scientific method that I'm even, way beyond me, he won Georgia handily. And they do that by...
Won Wisconsin as well.
Yeah, but same method.
Yeah.
Same method. And they track people on their cell phones.
Yeah, it's the same technology that
They've caught 100 criminals now.
CDC used during COVID. Some people turn that on to see if they were near a person who had COVID. What a violation of your privacy. But if you opted into it, actually, you had to go in your iPhone to shut it off. So you didn't know it was there. But anyways, it was the same technology. Right. So when the pundits came out and tried to discredit that, but here's what frustrates me. So you have that data. I have another.
Well, you had this data earlier than anybody. This one here.
So
we just started focusing on it, Ted and I, yesterday while you were in New Hampshire, and you had, of course, we have so much to do. We didn't get on it right away. But you alerted us to this. Seems to be 2 weeks ago, Doctor.
Yeah. So initially, Trump received 137,240 votes out of 524,659, while Biden received 381,144. So initially, close election, but it looked like Biden won.
Well,
following a recount.
Can I go back just a little?
Yeah.
The night of the election, it looked like Trump had clearly won with enough votes to have the election called in his behalf. He was ahead by 2.5 to 3.5 points. This is the result of a halt in the counting, which happened in 5 crooked cities. And then at the end of the halt in the counting, every place there's a halt, Trump's ahead, and Biden ultimately wins. That's the final result you're reading there.
Yeah.
That's the result after they put in the phony votes.
Yeah. And then almost immediately after a recount, Trump gained about 7 ballots, winning the election. And then it's gone back and forth. There's been a lot of shenanigans. Here's the problem. Here is the problem. You do a Google search on this. I couldn't believe what came up with this subject alone. You have to watch the live hearings. We can no longer, and this is a very sad thing I'm going to say, we can no longer rely on print. I'm sorry, we can't.
Or radio.
Use Google.
Or ABC.
You cannot use a Google search because you're going to get things like this. Oglethorpe County election ballots mishandled, but election still secure. Fact check. Fulton County is not missing ballots. And you're going to go on
now
and on.
Now it turns out they are. They're missing 375,000
exactly.
ballots.
You have to watch the live hearings. In this, I'm a systems theory person. I'm not going to get into a lecture on systems theory, but it's how everything affects one another. Our school systems are at the bottom of the barrel. We no longer are teaching free thinkers with facts, putting facts out there and letting the student kind of use deductive reasoning, really use their brain on critical thinking. You're fed what to think now. And if you dare raise a question, you're oppressed, you're belittled. And this is what happened.
Like you were.
I was looking for, remember Wisconsin? There was a huge report done after the 2020 election, and it showed all the ballot harvesting. Many states, ballot harvesting is illegal, and I think it should be in all states, right? Don't you think, whether you're left, right, middle, I don't care what you say, your political party, don't you want election integrity? We should have
if you're a crook.
very similar
Or
parameters.
communist.
And ballot harvesting is one of those things. So the Wisconsin report went into how Democrats used ballot harvesting in such an illegal and unethical way. They went to nursing homes. Families came out and complained, saying, how can my mother have voted for Joe Biden when she doesn't know what day of the week it is? How can my father have voted for Joe Biden when he's basically in a vegetative state? So they took out in this report, they didn't do it officially, but in this report, they took out all the ones where these nursing home patients unfortunately didn't have their mental facilities to be able to vote, and certainly Trump won. That's just with ballot harvesting.
Now,
That wasn't even with dumping fake ballots into
did we cover that on
Zuckerberg.
WABC, Doctor?
We did.
In detail.
We covered a lot on W. That's
And
the-
according
is
to
confusing,
the
but
CEO's mandate, there was a policy that we couldn't discuss the
I prefer
2024
not
election.
to talk about it as
How
I've
can we
obtained
discuss that
legal
if there was a-
counsel, please.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you to say, how could we possibly?
I guess I'm going to go off the air.
Well, Maria, I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and be defamed by them and let them put out lies about me and wait to be vindicated in court 2 years from now, which is what they're trying to do to Trump. I'm going to get vindicated right now because what they're saying is a damn lie. So we've been talking about this continuously for 5 years without interruption. How can they possibly, with a straight face, maintain there's a policy against doing this?
So as an educator, I'm a provider, and what we do is educate. You can't fit someone in one box saying, okay, you're a provider, so you only worry about someone's health. It's a whole picture. And that's the beauty of a board certified nurse practitioner. We were schooled under a different model than physicians, where we look at the wholeness. So our math performance of US teenagers is at the bottom of the barrel. We're the United States of America. So again, this all fits into getting information out. You cannot rely on Google searches or print. I beg you to please talk to your children, to your neighbors about not relying on this. They really there was something so bad that happened in that 2020 election. I'm telling you, my heart and soul, it was, there was so much cheating going on. And one of the things that states learned, and I have to say it's thanks to Rudolph Giuliani, and I don't want to speak for you, but I want to say this.
You can speak.
He saw that other lawyers who were sticking up for people went to court. In many court cases, they weren't allowing witnesses. There's a lot of lies that
Censorship.
Rudy went to 60 court case. He did not. He went to one only at the last minute because the lawyer was being threatened. And that was in Pennsylvania. And the judge didn't allow the witnesses. So Rudy, being smart, said, okay, here's American.
Or give me time to prepare.
Yeah, it was.
And the Bar Association's complaint against me is that case when I had 18 hours to prepare for it. And the judge didn't complain. The adversaries didn't complain. Some political kook, activist, Biden person, who are being paid, by the way, to do this against all his lawyers, sent a ridiculous letter to the Bar Association, which has led to my suspension and now my sure debarment. I mean, they're holding the opinion. They could have put out the opinion the first day. I know they're fixed. I know they're a bunch of Democratic. They fit right into the crooked New York City Democratic judiciary, which you are watching on display with Engamoron and Merchan, who is running a trial that is a scandal.
Yes, and shame on the New York Bar Association for not doing a proper investigation and sticking to the rules of law. But what I wanted to say, and again, I'm being an educator, having my educator hat on to young people especially. Again, not going by print, look at real hearings. So Rudolph Giuliani, they tried to discredit, right? Because he had so much credibility and he had information on Biden. So they tried to crush him. They started to do a false narrative. He's an alcoholic. Don't put him on TV. But here's how smart this man is. And I know you're sitting right next to me and I don't want to embarrass you, but
You're not going to embarrass
this,
me.
and I want to say this to
John.
President Trump as well. You had one of the brightest minds in your corner, because when he saw this, you got to remember what was going on at this time. Thousands of phone calls, people wanting to be heard, American citizens, a small Scooby-Doo team trying to do the right thing. So Rudy sees the landscape. He goes to one court, not given time to prepare. They wouldn't allow witnesses. And he says, who is responsible for election integrity? It's not the federal government. It's actually not even the election committees. It's
Presidential.
for presidential, excuse me. It is the state legislators. So he respected American citizens so much. He said, you want to be heard? He had a group of people from Michigan who witnessed fraud. I'm taking you to Michigan in front of your state legislature. He had a group of people from Pennsylvania who wanted to be heard. I'm taking you in front of the Pennsylvania.
And got that record for historical purposes.
You don't understand how brilliant move that was. He cannot be silenced. That forever should live, because they shouldn't destroy legislative meetings. So please, my whole thing to this story is young people, old people, go and find those hearings. This wasn't Rudolph Giuliani trying to just support his client, even though that's his job. It was way beyond that. It was supporting an American citizen and supporting election integrity. And thank you, sir.
Well,
thank you.
The reason for it was, I realized if you don't address 2020 and you cover it up the way WABC wants to do, and the way the Bidens want to do, and the way the communists want to do, it's going to happen again. To say I'm not going to discuss the 2020 elections is to say I'm going to allow the 2024 elections to be stolen. That's the reason they're putting on this pressure. That's the reason why the Bidens are. I realized very shortly in the courtroom in Pennsylvania, where I was there on 18 hours notice and no sleep, but which I take no excuse from. I've argued cases with less than no sleep, if that's the possible. And I had a great argument and a great case, and I knew for sure I was going to get witnesses. I've never had a temporary restraining order where the judge didn't at least take the witnesses. Gosh almighty, Muslim terrorists get witnesses, but not Donald Trump. And when I saw that, I'm going to tell you straight out. Let's just talk. I said, the fix is in the federal courts. Somebody told these judges, listen to them, throw their case out, but don't let a damn witness testify.
May I say there was a lot of threatening? I got to know a few of the lawyers in Pennsylvania. Literally, can you imagine this? You're a lawyer protecting a client.
Same as now.
They got phone calls to their law firms. The law firms got scared. Were threatening to fire people. Yeah, that's right. And you in Pennsylvania.
I'll put a little thing up here. If they thought that the amount of money that ABC is paying me was going to buy me to be censored on the 2020 election, I walked away from $6 million in order to represent Trump on principle. I'm sorry. I could be nuts. I could be. I could be a patriot, which is what I think I am.
You're an American
because
hero,
I actually think you're like me. And I found out that a lot of people aren't. So in any event, we do the first case. First case is clearly a fix because not the ruling. The ruling is very complicated in that case. I'm not criticizing the judge for that. I'm criticizing him for not allowing us to put our witnesses on the stand, because you couldn't understand our case unless you had our witnesses. We had 20 who observed unbelievable fraud in Philadelphia. And to even doubt that there was election fraud in Philadelphia is to be stupid. I mean, Philadelphia does election fraud for practice.
Oh, the people talk about it openly. It's very bizarre to me.
I did think, and Steve Bannon, I don't know if we did it on the air or not. Steve he's
an American hero.
Steve,
God bless.
I said to Steve,
really?
I think I said it to Gingrich the night of the election. We're ahead by 800,000 in Philadelphia. Even Philadelphia can't steal 800,000. I think Newt agreed with me. Bannon disagreed. No, Bannon said, no, he just said kiddingly, they can steal anything they want.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a short break. And we have the ability for you to call us, I think. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Ted?
Yeah.
Well, you can actually, we allow Ted
Oh,
to
we have a
speak.
couple calls. May I just say, I am getting my social media, my texts blowing up. People are looking for Uncovering the Truth. Let them know. Please share us on social media. Let them know. There's big news coming up about a couple of projects we're involved in, but we're going to take a short break and then we're going to take your calls. Oh, Ted.
Who did it today, by the way?
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And we're back.
Welcome back to Uncovering the Truth. Oh, you second half, you always welcome us back.
Well, welcome back.
Something
Well, we can do it a little different. Welcome back to Uncovering the Truth, possibly sponsored by Tunnels to Towers. So just in case, I'm going to urge you to contribute to my favorite organization, not just charity in the whole world, Tunnel to Towers. And please send them $11 a month so that they can take care of our seriously wounded warriors, police officers,
What a beautiful group.
and of course, take care of the families of those who were lost in the line of duty. There's no better person than Frank and his family. And please do that. And
We have a call, Rudolph, on our
put down.
brand new show that
I don't even know what number to call.
we just did the last minute. So thank you.
Will you tell everyone, Maria, that we will have, just excuse us for the.
Okay, it's we're going to be much.
But we have,
smoother.
I should tell you, we have a number of offers. I'm not doing this to brag or anything. You know, I'm not a bragger. We have a number of offers.
Within 2 minutes of the New York Times article, my phone blew up.
For this show, as well as a number of others. But we didn't have the time, obviously, to make those decisions. So we decided to use the technology we use for my 8.
America's Mayor last.
Which has had as many as over 1 million viewers. The Bannon broadcast on Friday night, I think it's at 600,000 now.
Wow.
So we're talking numbers that, get us out to the public.
I have to watch.
But we really like to be at 2 and 3 million because honestly, I don't know how to say this to you, self-serving. This could be, and I'll give you, except maybe for Sebastian Gorka, a couple of, there are others. Let's put down others. I got to think about that. Don't leave anybody out. But with a group of others that would be about this big, right? We're about the only place you're going to get the truth. We're about the only place that isn't intimidating.
Sad to say, actually.
The owner of WABC, who's talking about how he saved the station, you will not hear anything about the 2020 election. That is outrageous. That is un-American. That violates the First Amendment. And it affects the 2024 election in a way that is favorable to Joe Biden. Because if you don't know what went wrong in 2020, they sure as hell are going to feel empowered to do exactly the same thing and more in 2024.
And any leader, I've said this before, being a former CEO, even if I wasn't a CEO, you always are supposed to take things and make it better. That's what we've done, supposed to have done in healthcare. Like I remember some of the treatments we used to do and it actually harmed patients. So you're supposed to learn from it, evolve and move forward. So we should not be frightened of 2020. What we should do is say, we'll never let it happen again. And here are the safeguards. But censorship should never happen in the United States of America. We are not Russia. But who is our caller, Ted?
All right, well, let's go to our first caller. We have our friend Julie in Washington.
Yes.
How did we? Oh no! Did we lose her already?
You're on the air with the mission of Dr. Maria.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day, Dr. Marie.
Happy Mother's Day to you, Julie. We haven't
Thank
heard
you.
from you in a while, and that's our fault, not yours. How are you?
Yes.
So much. I'm so grateful that you're on live on Twitter now. I mean, I think they made
Uh oh. Uh oh.
We'll get Julie back on in 2 seconds.
Oh, John. But I'm so excited to hear from Julie. That's great. We are going to be smoother in the future. But she got us on X. So I
I
just
think she's in
saying-
Washington State.
Oops, she's saying something, Ted. I can kind of hear her.
Nope, she's calling back in here.
Oh, okay.
Getting her back on. It's quiet.
Okay.
Consider this our first effort.
Go.
here.
Yeah.
This is our first effort, but by next week you'll be able to call just like you were able to call. Because one of the things, from the first day that we did it together, and we did it together from the beginning. This wasn't like Rudy Giuliani, and then this was Dr. Maria, Rudy Giuliani, partners, day one, 4.5 years, never missed a Sunday. And when I couldn't
We
do it,
gave up Easter.
she
Christmas.
filled in for me. I filled in for her.
I also covered your show during the week.
Yes, until well, I won't say.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to say.
Oh,
And we have Julie back on. Can you hear Julie?
Julie, what's your comment?
Oh, I wanted to I thank both of you for exposing the truth, which anybody with any brains knows the truth. You know, I'm tired of the censorship. I'm tired of the, you know, the legal invasion. I'm tired of the treasonous traitors that are in our own government.
Oh,
But I want to thank Rudy from the bottom of my heart for his fight on, you know, for the truth, and for you too, Dr. Maria.
thank you.
And I love you both so much.
Oh, that's
and
so
so many
sweet.
people do.
Well, thank you, Julie. And I will tell you, we love you too. And we
That's who
love.
we're doing all this for.
Well,
all
first
of
of all,
you.
as Catholics and Christians, and as Adam said, and I agree with this, not the best Catholic, you know, when he went to see I wish I was a better Catholic. And I wish I agreed with everything that the church teaches. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with the main part of it. No, but I agree with the main part of it. And I am, in my own way, an extraordinarily dedicated Christian and Catholic. We are taught to love everyone. And I do. Even the ones I'm angry at, I love. I hope I can bring them around. You may put a few in the evil category. Nobody I know right now, well, except possibly the president. And because he's getting so many people killed. But even there, I pray for the redemption of his soul. But you can't allow someone to broadly say that you can't cover maybe the most relevant topic in the 2024 election. I would put it as one of the 5 most relevant. I believe the most relevant is the survival broadly of our rights, because unlike others, I can see clearly that the communists have taken over, which goes back to Obama. We just can't have a president who gives money to terrorists. Obama and Biden have supported the terrorist movement, which results in the killing of Americans. There's so much more to cover. We didn't get a chance to cover it.
No, we had a
rally.
but
The rally.
The rally was the biggest.
Can I do it?
Oh yeah,
The rally was huge. It was huge.
it was
And you know what?
impressive. I have to say,
You look at the pictures of it.
it's.
I don't know if he
crazy.
tells me it was 1 million. I gotta believe him.
I had the
This is
privilege.
Democrat
Are
territory.
you showing that, Ted, to our
Yeah, yeah.
audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is in Democrat territory, Joe.
What's crazy is I'll never forget the first time I saw Trump at a rally. I had the privilege of meeting him before I saw him in a rally.
Oh yeah, this is great. Tell me.
I couldn't. It was in New Hampshire, and I couldn't. He was president at the time.
I New Hampshire. New Hampshire people over the state.
Yes, you know we have the Puritan background.
You're very politically astute.
Yes, that is true.
Your other PhD is just being from New Hampshire.
That's all New Hampshire rights. But I'm like, so I had been involved. I got myself involved in politics way before Trump because we're the first in the nation primary. So we got to meet a lot of political candidates. And as CEO of a hospital and in healthcare for so many years, I got to really meet them and talk to them. So
Grill 'em.
been to a lot of meetings with a lot of political candidates or prior presidents. And when I went to a rally with President Trump, my mouth was open because I was like, I've never seen people yell, "I love you" to a president. I never had seen that. And it just continues, this love for this man, because people view him as the last ditch effort to save our country. But
Sometimes,
do it alone. We need a
course you
good
can.
Congress. We need a good Senate. But I want to thank everybody who joined us last minute. I know we just barely got out this information that we would be
This-
on social
this will
media.
remain on X, right, Ted, for people to watch all day or tomorrow. So if you feel that you've mixed, if you feel like
You missed us.
that's why I was fired. I can't talk.
Joe Tobacco said he missed his fixed, but he found us on X.
Well, so I can tell Joe, it's going to be immediately repeated.
John. But
John, this is over and over and over again, because this really turns into a podcast in essence. So it'll be on X. It'll be on, tell them all the places it's on, Ted.
Yeah, it'll be on X, Getter, sorry, not Getter,
Rumble.
X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble.
I believe we're on War Room this morning.
And this morning we are on Steve Bannon's War Room.
Yeah.
Simulcasted.
Will they keep it up? Do you know?
Believe so. The great people over at War Room.
Oh yeah, and thank them very much for
They're
coming
great.
in and
Love
alerts.
Maureen Bigman.
And I have to tell you, you look at Peter Navarro and you look at Steve Bannon, and I'm in awe. And I'm not serving time in prison. Peter is. It's outrageous. I'm not being threatened yet with time in prison. Although,
They keep trying to.
well, Fanny the hoe wants to put me in jail
They
for
decide
the rest of my
financially.
natural life.
Yep.
Uh,
But thank you for joining us. Happy Mother's Day. Don't forget America's Mayor Live tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on X,
and 3:00.
Rumble, and 3 o'clock.
At-
Okay, excellent.
I'm going right at him, babes. At 3:00 tomorrow, for those of you who enjoyed the Rudy Giuliani show, which was the #1 rated show in New York in that time slot, against my friend Hannity. And I will say I'm actually humbled by that. About a year and a half ago, we passed him, and with a few occasional changes, we're ahead of him by 30-40% in New York. Now, we are not syndicated, because John never syndicated me. And we're on in about 4 or 5 other places. They never told me. It was like pulling, well, it was very, very hard to find out why.
Rudy's got a lot to say, so you can hear him say it tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Shut up, Rudy.
Eastern time on X, Rumble, Facebook, and I'm probably missing a few. God bless
3
you.
o'clock
Happy
X
Mother's
for
Day.
sure, and then a lot of other places.
Happy
But you come and
Mother's
see
Day.
us on X, and we're going to have lots of places. We're not
Thank you.
stopping. They're not shutting me up. I'm going to talk about the 2020 election. I'm going to talk about everything you need to know about.
Thank you.
And I will not allow bullies to boss me around. Read my book, chapter, Stand Up to Bullies. And thank you, Dad, for teaching me this.
Do you agree that every vote should have a ballot image?
At this point in time, no, it wasn't required.
I didn't ask if it was required. Do you agree that it should have a ballot image?
Again, the ballot images should be recorded. But again, the vote is captured in that paper ballot. The ballot image is not the vote. It is merely an electronic picture of the ballot, so that we can go back and people can review them. And so it's part of the paper trail that we use to confirm the accuracy of the results. So yes, right now ballot images are required to be uploaded and preserved so that they can be produced in response to a public record. So we would expect there should be ballot images for every ballot. But again, in 2020, this was brand new equipment that counties were getting used to using. They weren't necessarily always doing things correctly. Some of the ballot images were not necessarily preserved, but again, the purpose of this investigation was to determine whether or not a